Coach Tom Brands, can you hear me all right?
Chris Brewer, I can hear you loud and clear.
Glad to hear it. All right, everyone, thanks for joining us. If you don't have recording privileges and you need recording privileges, please drop me a note in the chat and we'll get that taken care of. The conference is expected to announce pre-seeds tomorrow. We'll have a notebook that follows. All that being said, if you have questions for Coach Tom Brands, raise your hand and we will get rolling. Coach, the first question from Mike Finn.
Hi, Tom. Your team obviously has gone through a lot this past month. And sometimes I've even heard the expressions, the only thing that could stop Iowa wrestling is COVID. Can you talk about what it's been like going through this, not just this year, but last year, considering these are probably two of the better teams you've ever had, and how special maybe this team is being created because of all this other stuff?
Well, I think you start with our guys and how they've handled this from day one, starting back when the Nationals was canceled, but really after that. And it's a boring story because it's been told so many times, but April, May was a crucial time period with communication from the coaching staff to these guys about patience and controlling the things that you can control. And, you know, COVID is going to change the world and it's going to be so regional that it's not even going to make sense to us what's going on in other parts of the country. And you still got to be diligent. You still got to be focused and you still got to have a good attitude and a good work ethic. And they've done that, and they've done that in a consistent manner. And when you have that, it becomes, I should say, and it becomes prevalent in your locker room. You know what? You can't help but have good things happen where, you know, a crisis all of a sudden jumps out at you and you handle it pretty doggone well.
Tom, the next question from Cody Goodwin.
Hey, Coach. Thanks again for doing this. Hope you're feeling better. Was there specific instruction that you maybe gave to your guys over the course of the last few weeks or month or so while in-person activities and stuff were paused?
You're always communicating. The biggest thing is the protocol. You know, our protocol changed. We were tested sometimes twice a day. You do, you know what I'm saying? You do the quick one, and then you do the PCR or whatever. You do the one that takes a while. And our medical people are very diligent. So the communication had to be very in-depth. And I'm smiling when I say that because it's coordination on a lot of levels. My boss, Barbara Burke, who has exhausted herself in trying to make us as comfortable as possible with a situation that you cannot control. She's absolutely exhausted herself. And the Wisconsin deal, which still doesn't make sense to me. And you say, oh, well, don't talk about that. But it doesn't make sense to me because our medical team is the best medical team on the planet. Starting with our athletic trainer, Jesse Donovan, starting with our team, Dr. Andy Peterson, who are in, direct communication every day. And then, you know, this fabrication of dialogue that never happened. It's baffling. And so our guys have overcome that because of communication. So how much have we communicated? Very, very directly, very directly. And you know what? It's not fun for a lot of the roster because there is risk. And so you manage that risk by separation. And you know what? Our 10 guys are the most important thing going right now. And we got to protect them. And especially the ones that are still testing.
On the next question from KJ Pilcher.
You have such an experienced group of veterans. How much does that leadership and that independence come into play when they're kind of on their own and that in-person activity is disrupted? How much do you just kind of have to trust them that their independence will take over and do what's right?
Well, that's the one thing that you talk about is accountability and independence. And, you know, remember during this time, you know, remember what the weather was like. It didn't get above 0 for a couple days in a row there, and our guys weren't able to, be indoors anywhere because of the pause. And during that pause, they're doing things that are, separating themselves from any and all risk. So there's a lot of isolation, and, they're running outside in that weather. And those are things that remind me of my days at Iowa, when you would do things that were seemingly insane, and just to keep your edge any way possible to keep your edge. And that's what these guys have been able to do. And the thing is you can talk about all that, all that's admirable, and it's a great story, but it doesn't guarantee you success. And that's where Terry Brands' perspective comes in very well, and his communication to the team, in that, your performance is directly related to the effort that you put into it. And the effort that you put into your performance is it can be about, what do you want to get out of it? But really it's about, when it comes down to, is it going to be you or the other guy? You got to somehow make it you. You got to somehow make it be you every time. And so, that's where we're at. So you can have all these admirable things and great stories about, keeping your edge and stuff, and the things that we've been able to do to persevere through this time. But really it's up to these guys coming up here, in 4 or 5 days from now.
The next question, Tom, from Mike Finn.
Tom, you talked about an edge. Is it more of a mental edge that you're concerned about than a physical edge, or maybe the fact they haven't wrestled often? They're maybe even hungrier than they normally would be going to a postseason?
I don't look at it like I'm the one that's concerned about the edge. I was more answering a question on maybe how you keep an edge. And I was explaining that you keep that edge by when you can't come into your normal domain, into your workout room, which, by the way, we're not the only program that's had to, persevere through this or like this. Some had to do it at the beginning, and some are doing it now maybe, and some had to do it at basically the time that we were doing it, or maybe before, or whatever. So everybody's had their own challenges. And basically what I was talking about is how accountability and independence and all those things that you recruit young men on, those come into play, and the maturity that these guys have displayed through this, and not just, our number ones, but, our number 2s and 3s, not even knowing if they're going to be called on to come in, even though they're testing every day and have to stand ready, because we are limiting, the number in our room. So that's where we're at.
Tom, the next question from Cody Goodwin.
After the irregular off season, you guys were able to come out at the Showdown Open and then go to Omaha, and the guys really seemed like they performed pretty well in both of those events. Does that experience give you confidence about what to expect this coming weekend, along with just the overall maturity of how they handled the situation?
I think that your schedule is your schedule. And even if you have dates on a calendar that get interrupted, you make adjustments. And, I could talk a lot about international schedules and international wrestling. And, look at Jordan Burroughs' schedule. He's not wrestling every single weekend. And look at the best guys in the world right now. They're getting ready for the Olympic Games by wrestling in a trials process, and then maybe a finals trials process. Maybe they went overseas once. And they were fortunate to be able to do that. But and that's how we operate. Our guys are ready to go. They love to compete. They love being around their teammates and their buddies. And it's a joy when they're, around each other. So again, we're ready as we can be. The results will show how ready me saying we are, and, you know, we got to be ready to hit the mat when that first whistle blows. And when I say we got to be ready to hit the mat, we got to be ready to hit the mat in a ready way, where we're ready.
Tom, the next question from Scott Doctorman.
Tom, how are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. A little over 3 years ago, when you pulled Spencer Lee's red shirt, you called him a unique talent. He would whip your tail at that age, which kind of surprised me, just knowing how good you were at that age. And then he's proceeded to have, a tremendous career up to this point. How has he progressed in the manner that you've expected, and in what ways can he still improve going forward?
Well, he'll tell you that he's a Hodge Trophy winner. The only one that won the Hodge that didn't win a national title the year he won the Hodge. And so that probably motivates him. He's a Sullivan Award winner, and there's never been a wrestler that's won 2 Sullivan Awards. So that motivates him. The areas where he has improved isn't necessarily like where you can point to something where there's a maturity issue, which he certainly matured over the years, but the areas where he improves is just his mentality with the growing with the times, meaning talking about another Sullivan Award, talking about, getting kind of cheated out of a chance at a national title a year ago and still winning the Hodge, and therefore he didn't really represent the Hodge. And now he's got a chance here that, by golly, we got to get to the national tournament somehow, some way. And then I get an opportunity to, win a Hodge with a national title. And so just the way he thinks, the way he talks about, what's next, it's not it's like an elite-minded athlete. It's like Michael Jordan. It's not about, what movie am I going to make in the off season, or what about this name, image, likeness that's coming down the pipe? How can I make, X amount of dollars? He's very grounded in all that will come with consistent, great performances every time out. And so that's the unique mindset. I don't know that, you can point to something where he's really grown or whatever. And so I've answered your question in a roundabout way about who Spencer Lee is as a competitor.
The next question, Tom, from Cody Goodwin.
We've talked about Caleb Young a few different times, even though he's only gotten a handful of matches in this season. But what have you maybe seen from him in the room when he's competing that tells you that he has grown from last year's experience?
Well, we're going to find out real quick coming up here how he's grown. And we feel good about all of our guys, and he's no exception. We feel good about Caleb Young. The one area that I could point to in my head when you ask, what have I seen? That's, maybe positive or onward. It would be a little bit more wide open, where there's more holds, there's more points being scored in the practice room. And that's important. That's an important barometer. So like I said, the ultimate test is in competition. And we got that coming up with all of our guys. And he's as excited as all of them to compete. And I would say that there's probably still a little, without speaking for him, a little bitterness left over from, last year. But he doesn't dwell on it. He's a pretty optimistic guy when it comes right down to it.
Anything else for Tom Brands?
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for the time, Coach. Tom will slide out. Alex Marinelli will slide in. I expect Spencer Lee to be behind him. Alex, how you doing?
Great.
Glad to hear it. Thanks for giving us your time this afternoon. We will get right to it. Alex, the first question from Mike Finn.
Hi, Alex. Very few wrestlers in the past have had to do what this team has gone through, especially yourself. You've only had like a couple matches compared to your past. Do you ever feel like fate's against this team and that maybe, and instead of you guys are using it as even a more rallying point than normal?
I mean, I don't know. I just feel like, it doesn't matter how many matches I have. I'm just going to go out and wrestle how I know how. We wrestle so many times in the practice room, and we know how to wrestle. Tom said one time to me that I could take 3 months off of wrestling and still go back and do exactly what I know how to do. We've wrestled our whole lives. Even though I have 2 matches in, I don't care. I got to win. 9 straight to be a national champ. So.
Alex, the next question from Cody Goodwin.
Hey, Alex, appreciate you guys doing this. Tom was telling us that some of you guys, just to try and stay in shape or stay active during this kind of funky break that you guys got, was some of you guys went out running in sub-zero temperatures. I know you're not much of a runner, but what did you guys kind of do, or what did maybe you do specifically to just try and, stay in shape during the weird pause? Yeah,
I did that. When Tom told us to kind of get out and run, that was when we had like the old, blizzard, as people would say. It was like -15. And I wore like 4 layers and I was sweating, but my hands and my feet were freezing. And so still got in like a couple miles and blew my lungs out and stuff. So that was, I think, when you're doing that, you think, I don't know how many other sports would take that extra mile and go out and run in -degree weather. I just don't know who would do that, honestly, but we do. And because we want to be national champs, we just don't want to skip a beat. That's, we want to go the extra mile. So.
The next question, Alex, from KJ Pilcher.
Alex, I know the end goal is St. Louis and a title there, but you have a chance to become a 3-time Big Ten champ. What's that mean to you? That challenge waiting this weekend.
When people say that, it's awesome. And I don't take it for granted at all, but people remember national champs. People don't remember, really how many times Spencer Lee has won the Big Ten. They will remember his national championships, honestly. And he won his first one last year, first Big Ten title. And it's like, I don't know. It's just like people just don't, there's not as much weight, but honestly, it is important because it's the next thing on the calendar and you get your name up on the wall and the Big Ten title and whatnot. But, honestly, the Big Ten championship is that qualifier technically for nationals. So, my goal is to be a 4-time Big Ten champ, 4-time national champ. That was my goal coming in. And this year it can be my 3rd. So.
Alex, the next question from Isaac Goffin.
Yeah, I'm going off with Spencer Lee. I was talking to his dad a few weeks ago, and it sounds like his character really stands out. Could you elaborate more on his character?
He's sitting right here, so I don't want to give him a big head, but I don't know. It's just Spencer's, one of a kind. He's very unique. We call him Yoda because he can do things with his opponent that is kind of, I don't know. It's just unhuman, like, or however you call it. And he can just kind of use the force and turn guys and pin them and tech them within the first period. But other than that, off the mat, Spencer Lee, he's selfless. He's always talking to you, always giving you good vibes. He likes to play video games and stuff, and that's his thing. So I'm not gonna knock him for that. And but he's always, just easygoing, great parents, great family. What more can you ask for?
Alex, the next question from Scott Docterman.
Alex, that said, all of you are extremely motivated athletes to perform at a high level. But when you watch what Spencer has been able to do on the mat, does it either motivate you, or do you ever kind of watch his match and go, how do I do that? Or, what does watching his matches do for you and how you evaluate yourself and your teammates?
Yeah, I think whenever Spencer steps on the mat, you try to see what he does that makes him so great. And I think it's that attention to detail and how he hits his moves, and his tilts. I mean, yesterday I was working on armbar tilts and trying to see how Spencer does it, and just going through it in my mind, like why is maybe his grip's just a lot stronger, and then his bar arm, the way he drives, his hips, and just little things like that you try to pick apart. But honestly, we all have our own style, so I don't have to do the same thing as Spencer, but the way he's dominant on the mat, I mean, you want to take that and run with it. So kind of like DeSanto and Ironman. Ironman has his own style, so I don't know if I can replicate Ironman's cradle style, but I'm going to go out and try to be as fearless as he is. So,
Alex, the next question from Cody Goodwin.
After the irregular off season and those first few months after everything went down last year, you guys were able to come back at the Showdown Open, and then I know a handful of you guys also went to Omaha to compete there, and it seemed like you guys competed pretty well at both events. Does that experience give you guys a little bit of confidence going into this weekend after these last weird few weeks?
Yeah, I think those competitions are huge, and I'm thankful that we had them. And I'm thankful for my coaches for putting that on the Hawkeye Wrestling Club. That's awesome. But I think the wrestling that we've been doing in the room, I mean, it has prepared us the most. I mean, you can't, Tom and Terry's training cycle, I mean, nothing beats it, nothing at all in the world. And people are seeing that, and we're number one in the country for a reason, and we got to prove it this weekend. And then a few weeks later, we got to do it again. So.
The next question, Alex, from Mike Finn.
Alex, everybody knows about the Iowa fan base. Unfortunately, many of them are not going to be able to even see you guys in person this postseason. Have you guys talked about maybe you guys want to make it even more special, find a way if those people are going to be watching on their computer or that type of thing?
I mean, yeah, it sucks, after my Big Ten title, who did I point to? It was the Iowa fan crowd. It's just, that's who it was. And so if they're not going to be there, we're still going to wrestle for them in spirit, and we love them. And the Iowa fan base is literally the best in the country, maybe even the world. I mean, it's, I can bet anything, or I can trust them with anything. And I love their knowledge in the sport. You can't beat it. And, if they're going to be wanting to try to get into that St. Louis arena. They're going to want to break the doors down, and they're going to try to get in, but we're going to see if they can do that. So
the next question, Alex, for Cody Goodwin.
Where have you seen Caleb Young grow, or what's the difference between Caleb Young this year compared to, maybe how he ended last year?
Listening to what Tom had to say, it was spot on. I mean, honestly, he's just a little more open. Like a lot of times, and Terry tells us to me all the time, I'm just holding too much, and I'm maybe trying to be just too much of a muscle guy, and maybe just relax a little bit and go out there, and if you fall into a shot, great. And if you get taken down, so what? Get out and get the next takedown. I mean, it's as simple as that, honestly. And I think Young, obviously he's matured throughout the years, and this is a whole nother year of training, but I feel like, to me, honestly, Young is one of the toughest guys I've wrestled in this room. I mean, up there with Kemmer and Kennedy and all those guys, and Brooks and all those guys. I mean, Young is one of the best I've wrestled in the room. And so when I say that, it gives him fuel, but he wants to be the best on the mat out there wrestling other guys. So I know how Young is, so he's gonna want to go out there and redeem himself and look to put on a show.
The final question, Alex, is from Chris Werner.
Hey, Alex, I just wanted to touch again on the running outside in the sub-zero temperatures. How did that kind of come about, and were you surprised that so many guys did that? And also, how big is the mental edge you talked about, especially in wrestling when it's a one-on-one battle?
Yeah, I think the guys who wanted to keep their shape did it. And I can kind of think about who's going to do that. Typically starting lineup, couple backups. It's just a select few that want to be great, right? And then how it came about, I mean, obviously we had myself and a couple other teammates were out with COVID protocol. And Tom was just saying, hey, like, you got to self-distance. So like what's better than running? I mean, like you got to do it smart and stay in shape and kind of can't push the limits, because people had to have like just different protocols to abide by. But it was pretty normal procedure for us. Like we just go out and run. I mean, it's not that hard, but it is hard if you're not used to it, I guess.
All right, Alex, thanks for your time this afternoon and good luck this weekend.
Yep. Thanks.
Slide out and Spencer Lee will slide in. He will be our final Hawkeye student athlete this afternoon. Spencer, can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Good. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for giving us this time. We will get right to it, Spencer, with the first question from Mike Finn.
Hi, Spencer. I hope you're doing well. A lot of people with wrestling, sometimes they talk more about the mental edge that you need to succeed in the postseason. Can you talk about how your mental edge is now, considering all the stuff that's happening? Have you been trained enough mentally to get ready for the postseason?
Absolutely. I mean, we talk about getting through anything, no matter what the circumstances, since I was a freshman even. And that's how the coaches, they talk to us. It doesn't matter what's going on in the world. You can only control what you can control, and you just have to go out there and control what you can control, right? Which is your mindset, how hard you train, how ready you get, going to bed early, eating, diet, whatever, right? So we're ready to go, and it doesn't matter what's coming after us, but we're going to do our best to win titles. So.
Spencer, the next question from KJ Pilcher.
Yeah, Spencer, what was the communication like between teammates during the disruption of in-person activities? And, how much of it is just an independent thing that you have to trust each other to do the right thing during that time?
I mean, everyone holds each other accountable, but I know most of us just kind of did our own thing. I'm not saying we avoided each other, but we did the best we could by the protocol to stay isolated. And we lost last year, so I don't think any of us wanted to do anything that could possibly affect this year. So I think we all knew what we had to do, and we did what we had to do to get back to competition compliance or whatever, right?
The next question, Spencer from Chad Leistico.
Hey, Spencer, as you, it's been a year now since the Big Ten tournament last year, and I know you've been through a lot, but I guess off the mat, how has your guys' demeanor and character helped you get to this point?
I mean, just like I said, we've been ready for this since last year. We were training like March was going to happen anytime right after it got, canceled. So we're just ready to go. I mean, that's just how we are. I mean, it's kind of hard to say anything else because we've been ready for this since I was even a freshman. Whatever was coming at us. I've had a lot of adversity in my career. A lot of my teammates have had adversity in their career, and it doesn't matter. We just got to keep getting back up from getting hit. Put down on the canvas, right, like a boxer, and keep punching back, getting ready to go. So.
Spencer, the next question from Cody Goodwin.
Hey, Spencer, appreciate you guys doing this. Two-parter here. One, did you go running with some of your teammates in the sub-zero temperatures over the last few weeks? And
I ran outside every day for about a month and a half. So even before the protocol happened. So.
I gotcha. The second part I had was, what else did maybe you and you guys do during the pause to try and stay in shape since the in-person?
I would get up at like 6:30 and I would run, and then I would run at like 3, and then I'd run at like 8.
Spencer, the next question from Chris Werner.
Hey, Spencer, I'm just wondering, obviously you only had 2 home duels this year, how it shook out, but how was that experience for you? Obviously it's very different from what it's normally like during a normal year at Carver.
I think I get the most nervous to wrestle into Carver, and I wasn't really nervous this year because there was no one to wrestle in front of except for the parents. I could actually hear my dad screaming, from the stands. Usually it's a faint voice. Now it's just his voice and Terry's. So that was kind of fun, but it was definitely different. And I don't know if I ever want to do it again. So let's have fans.
The next question from Scott Doctorman.
Yeah, Spencer, what's kind of your thoughts about being called Yoda by some of your teammates? And have you had any other nicknames over the years?
They call me that because like Terry Brands and like Nelson and a bunch of other guys love Star Wars. Caleb Young. Caleb made like a photo edit of me in like my wrestling, like one of my pictures I took for media this year with like a cane and like Yoda ears on and sent in like the group chat. So like it was kind of like I was like a meme because they would call me Yoda because I'm really short. He's really short, you know. So it all like kind of makes sense to them. They all found it pretty funny. So I mean, it's a compliment to me, so I'm not upset about it. Pretty cool being called Yoda.
Spencer, the next question from Chad Leistico.
Hey man, going back to even when you're being recruited, how do you feel like the guys in this room, you, Alex, Michael, Caleb, have helped change the perception of Iowa wrestling? And now as you get to these championships, how do you want to be remembered?
I mean, I wouldn't say it was just those guys, right? I mean, I think a lot of people had an impact. I mean, if you even not to like put down the senior class or junior class when I was a freshman, but I know that the team was a lot different then. Very individual oriented. I remember vividly having like 2 people on the bench my freshman year I was watching like 65 or 74 Marinelli or Gunther at that time, and there was like 2 people on the bench. Everyone else was upstairs like eating food or watching TV upstairs. And I think that the team now is like we get as many people on the bench as physically can, and the rest are in the tunnel. You know, they all want to be there. They all want to help out. It just our team's just a lot closer, and it just kept evolving. Like there was like you could see that there was like people that wanted to be like that my freshman year, and it just kept evolving. You know, with Kemmer and Caleb and Marinelli and so many other people. I mean, literally everybody, even people that you guys behind the scenes might not know too much about because of their careers may not have gone the way they wanted when they're here, but. It's been awesome just seeing that change and the camaraderie and watching everyone want to be, supportive of everyone. So,
Spencer, the next question from Isaac Guffin.
Yeah, I'm Spencer. It seems like you have a special connection from President Bruce Harrow, and I know you talked about him in January. Could you elaborate on that?
Well, so Terry thought it would be a great idea to have me do like a skit with him because there hasn't been parking allowed at Hillcrest ever, actually, probably. I don't think there's ever been allowed. Like, you've always had to pay for parking. And my dad sent President Harold, a email, like very articulated email. My dad's not someone I would ever want to get into an argument with about, because that was when we were like to sub-zero temperatures and we weren't allowed parking at Hillcrest. So the only way I could get to practice was either by walking or by the bus. And if you're waiting for a bus for 5 minutes, my dad wrote in the article or another email, that you could get frostbite in less than like 5 minutes, right? So I was allowed, we were allowed to have parking there for like a month and a half until it got warmer. And so like then I met him at the Capitol when I won nationals my freshman year, and we talked then and for like probably 30 minutes there, and we just kind of made a connection there. And then we did that skit where we met on the bus and talked and had like an interview together, and that was really cool. I mean, I have great respect for him. I think he has the kind of mindset that I would want out of a college president. It's awesome.
Spencer, the next question from Scott Doctorman.
Yeah, this is kind of 2 parts, 2 different subjects, really. One is, I know you've had some fun in the past with Tristan Wirfs. Did you ever talk to him throughout the course of his football season, and especially after the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, we kept in touch a little bit. I don't really hang out with many people, so I'm kind of a loner when it comes to that aspect, just because that's just how I've always been. So I'm not saying like me and him were like best buds and hung out all the time, but we did keep in touch a little bit. And I just wanted to tell him, good luck, for some of his, some of the games or, post about him being rookie of the week or whatever, because he is kind of a phenom and a freak. That guy's insane. I mean, your first year in the NFL and you win Super Bowl title, guarding Tom Brady, giving up 1 sack. You know, that dude's he's a monster. So I hope to keep in touch with him just out of, you know, respect of his career. And he went to almost every match of mine, I think, in Carver. I mean, he was awesome. That's a good dude.
And the other part is, how do you, with knowing what you've got coming ahead or want to have ahead in the summer, how do you train differently for those two disciplines, knowing that, you know, the folk style of wrestling, you know, that's really important right now, but beyond that, freestyle is going to be very, very important once it's over?
Well, I don't really train any different for freestyle. We really don't do much freestyle because I did freestyle my whole life, and I frankly wrestle folk style like I wrestle freestyle. And the only difference is I don't lock my hands on top, basically, and that's about it, really. Takedown transition turn is the same thing. I don't go across my back when I scramble. I just don't. You could probably watch every single match of mine in college, and I probably have never hit like a funk roll or anything. Maybe even high school, you could probably not even find a match like that. So I don't really, my style doesn't change at all. You just got to know that there's different rules and push outs and, you know, different defenses a little bit, and, you know, top bottom's definitely different. So that's about it. Don't really train any different.
Spencer, the final question this afternoon from Chad Leistico.
All right, easy one. Who's the nicest guy on the team, and why do you guys get along so well?
I think nice is relative. How about the guy that's always smiling and you can never make not smile? Is probably Cassiope. He's the guy that we have a 5:30 workout, and he was in here at 4:55 just because he was already awake. So then we're all in there kind of, you know, tired or whatnot, and he's just laughing and smiling, trying to wrestle around with everybody, and half the team just trying to get their mind ready for the workout. He's been awake for an hour, already ate breakfast. You know, I'm like Cassiope, let me wake up, you know. And he's like, come on, I've been awake for an hour, just, you know, messing around, moving, you know, whatnot. So definitely a guy that it's good to have in the morning because he kind of wakes you up because you're like, well, he's awake, so I gotta be awake.
All right, Spencer, thanks for your time this afternoon. Good luck this week.
Thank you very much.